And there was a point during the hurricane where in zero visibility, 60-mile-per-hour gust winds, shit wind sideways. It was in that moment where I had a cabin full of babies that I had just rescued. And I thought to myself, God, if you're out there, please get us to the landing zone safe, because I don't mind crashing in a helicopter and dying. That's kind of a cool way to go out, in my opinion. But we have these babies in here, and I don't want that to happen to them. And I swear on my life that I looked out the right side cabin sliding door window, and that visibility that used to be almost zero, it parted just enough for me to see this brilliant, white, beautiful cross shining back at me. And it was in that moment that I was just reminded, it like hit me like a ton of bricks, where God was like, and I say this all the time in my speeches because it was such a profound moment, not only in my life, but in my faith walk. I just felt God reminding me, like, my child, like, have I not commanded you, be courageous? The Lord your God is with you wherever you go. That's Joshua 1:9. And that has been a pillar of moving forward in my faith walk, that, again, we can't go off of our emotions. We can't go off of what we see. Just know that God is with you. He's in the middle of every storm in your life. Even if you don't see it, he's working.
Battle Line Podcast have a really awesome show for you guys. We have the author of this incredible book, The Hurricane Within, Ashlee Olbricht. Formerly, you guys know Ashlee Leppert, which is still her Instagram. But yeah, we've been meaning to have her on for a long time, and I'm excited to talk to her.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to have her on. She's got a story a lot don't know about, and it's always good because our podcast, there's a lot of people we get on that have a lot of stories that people don't know about, and honestly, I think people are seeing out there that listen to the podcast or watch it on YouTube, which I highly recommend. Now that we've got some cool stuff going on in the background.
Yes, dude, Harold is by far, I'll say it many times, the best video editor we've had. He does a kick-ass job. I can't say it enough.
He does an excellent job. But if you'll find out that there are a lot of amazing stories out there, and that's one of the reasons why when I asked Ian if he wanted to start the podcast is because my story, one of my stories, and I'm not being arrogant, I'm just saying I did it for many years. I was very blessed enough for it to get out there in a book and a movie. And there's many others, like Mark has a tremendous story, and Black Hawk Down, Dale Sizemore has a tremendous story, and those guys are part of that. But there are many out there that did similar things or have tremendous stories that don't get that. And I say recognition in air quotes because it is somewhat. And so I think our podcast allows that to get out. These people that have amazing stories that didn't have a blockbuster movie or didn't have a best-selling book. It doesn't mean their story. In fact, their stories need to get out there even more because there's so much out there, amazing and heroic acts from people that you've never heard of and you may never know unless you listen to our podcast. So that's why I
fully agree with that. And I think now also it's funny because I know, and I'd love to get him on the podcast, but Ice Cube has been doing this. I think he's calling it the Fuck the Gatekeepers podcast tour. You could beep that out, Harold, since I said it early in the podcast. Because I try to stay away from cursing early, but it is what he's calling it. F the gatekeepers. But the reason I say it is I do think there's less gatekeepers now, in that, you had to be a major name to get your name out there. And now with podcasts, it's like, you don't have to have like a major public relations person. And it is great. There's podcasts like Ours and The Team House and a million other great podcasts, and some that suck, quite honestly, but some that are good that people can go on.
But the opportunities there. Yeah, that's why I told you, try it. If you didn't, well, at least I mean, you don't know if you're going to succeed unless you try. And maybe if you don't succeed at something, well, then I've failed many times. But that allows me to, hey, this is probably not what I need to do, or maybe I need to work a little harder at it. I think a lot of those guys we've seen it. I think you can agree with me on this. Is there's many podcasts that could do well, but it doesn't take off like that, so they quit. It's like, wait a second, guys, you got to put some time into it. There's not everyone just going to explode right off the bat. It doesn't work that way. There's some that do, but there's sometimes you got to put some work into it. And I think our podcast has done very well because we continually try to improve because we've made mistakes. It's like, well, let's fix these mistakes. Well, like you talk about Harold. Hey, not that we've had mistakes of people that have done stuff before us, but we're like, it's just not really clicking. We need to find something that fits us and that may be to us a little bit better. And that's how you do it. You just keep trying new things, but you can't do it if you only do 10 episodes. I mean, that's it. And it's not going to happen. And that's just how it goes.
It's true. And you got to have a game plan. But before we get to Ashlee, and we're going to talk about a few different things. It's been a couple of weeks since you've been on. I do want to talk about Ned, of course. It's funny mentioning Ned. I was just looking at Rhett's Instagram, and man, he is traveling all over the place. He is always hitting these cool national parks. It reminds me I got to do some more traveling. It's been a minute. And then Ben Davis from Veterans Outdoor Advocacy Group. He's kicking ass too. Navy SEAL, who we had on the show recently. Check that episode out if you haven't. But with over 700 five-star customer reviews, Ned's Mellow Magnesium is an instant hit. Nourish your entire body with Ned's proprietary super blend with 3 forms of chelated magnesium, GABA, L-theanine, and over 70 trace minerals. It propels memory, mood, brain function, stress response, nerve and muscle health, and sleep. And about 75% of Americans are deficient in it. If you're not getting enough sleep, you got to take a magnesium supplement or try their CBD. I love both. Ned's Mellow Magnesium is now available on Amazon, but of course, you're going to get the best deal through us as a first-time customer when you go to helloned.com/battleline, or just to enter the code battleline at checkout and show them the power of the podcast. So that's HELLONED.com/battleline, or once again, helloned.com/battleline. With that, let's get right into everything.
From Kansas City to New York City, from planet Earth to extraterrestrial life in space, a podcast with no equal, engaged in unconventional warfare through your speakers and headphones. This is a show about embracing the suck, conquering your demons, and finding God in the face of adversity. Chris, Tanto Peranto.
Switch is on. Motherfucker, I'm gonna shoot you in the face.
Ian Scotto.
You know, Ian and I have been dating for a long time.
You are now tuned into the Battleline Podcast.
The switch is on, Battleline Podcast, and we had some news to hit last time we were on, so we didn't get a chance to get an update with you. But basically, since the last time we spoke or didn't cover it in that episode, you were out of the country for the first time in years. Then you were in Florida, and then you just did another training class. So you've been pretty busy.
Let's vacation, guys. It's family time, and I take as much time as I can with the family, and it's always fun. And my son, this is his last year at home before he goes to college, so it was special. And
where's he going off to?
He's going to I don't know if we can. His mama wants.
Could you say the state? Could you say the state? I mean, states are big.
Iowa. He's in Iowa, cool. and he got and he's a tremendous athlete. He's got great genes, from his mom. And I'm okay. I was a pretty decent athlete growing up through college, but he got a soccer scholarship and also a track scholarship, a dual scholarship. And then he also got some money because he was a straight A student, which I never was. I don't know where he got the brain, but it wasn't for me. That did come from me. So very proud of that boy too, especially for those that have listened to our podcast know from me talking is that him and I, because of my deployments, and I was a lot different person back then. I was, I invested, have deployed many, many years. It's hard to be a father. It's hard to switch off and I was very mean. I ain't gonna lie. And him and I, really didn't get close. We talked about it on the Corey Taylor podcast, one with, until he was about 15. And now, we have that relationship that I always wanted to have, that I just couldn't figure out how to do it until those later years when I stopped deploying and stopped going on all those damn trips and stuff because of the book and the movie. I'm very proud of him because really he succeeded because he's got a tremendous mother, of course, 10 is amazing. And also because he's just he's just a good kid, and I'm very proud of him. So yeah, we went to Florida and had a great time. Of course, hit a couple parks, Universal, and hit a couple of the Disney parks. We've been DVC members, just haven't gone in a while because we just don't like the wokeness that's there. And I really, this time going there, and been there in 3 years, they've toned it down. I think they're figuring it out. That just family at Disney, be family, and you're going to have everybody there, but don't try to put agendas in there. Just be Disney. And it was just Disney, except for Disney Springs, the downtown area that isn't in a park. That's still, but there's still, I saw a lot more, just like how I remember when I first started to go, just families having a good time. And it wasn't really that packed. I was very shocked that it's still, Disney, it's still busy for Disney, but it wasn't like I remember where it's just, you're trying to walk around like this in some of the parks, which it makes me see. And it also says that Disney, there's people like myself that still aren't going to go if you're going to stay in the political agenda arena. If you're not just Disney, we're not coming back, and the only reason we did really go to the parks because that's where my son wanted to go. And it was this last, so we're going there, but we had fun, great time. Universal, of course, was fantastic. And then Disney one thing Disney still has not changed, and it's wonderful, is they do these fishing trips. You can do guided fishing trips with Disney. They're employees at Disney that run these fishing boats around. So you're fishing around all the parks and all those lakes. And I wish I could post the pictures of my kids. I'm no crap. You're catching bass this big. We each caught in 2 hours. My daughter caught the most. She caught 6. The rest of us, even my son, even my little Peanut, he caught 5. Mama caught 5.
This is like pretty good number because you saw my picture of fishing
on
Long Island.
Yeah.
I was lucky to catch one thing. Like my friend George, he didn't catch a thing. So yeah,
that's
Long Island compared to Florida, probably.
It's compared to Florida, but it's a hidden secret because they don't advertise it a ton. In fact, it's like the fishing charters for Disney are like the redheaded stepchildren of the rest of the stuff at the park. They don't get any money. They get no promotion, nothing. You just have to find them when you get there. And because of being DVC members going there for years, we did. And now and my son, Christian, he caught 2 lunkers, humongous. And
did you get to eat them?
Well, you throw them back. Bass aren't really good eating. Well, bass aren't good eating though. It's not like you were catching tuna, weren't you? Like
I caught, I was able to eat it. It was not flounder, fluke. Yeah. But they washed it. I have my grill outside. I just threw them on the grill. And
Fluke's good. That's the staple you find a lot in just the stores. Are good. It
was good. Fish. I do worry about like the mercury in general, and I'll
especially
be honest,
up where you're at.
Yeah, the water on Long Island, like this. It's not like the clear water of Florida.
No.
But whatever.
Bass aren't
good
eating though, bud. They're just not. They're not good tasting. Bass is a sport fish. You throw them back, I'm
thinking that. I've never eaten bass in my life. So
no, it's not really good eating fish. It's just good to catch. But it was 2 hours wonderful. We had this guy, Bobby. Loved him. He was amazing. Again, it's Disney. It's just you got country boys taking you out to fish on the Disney property and seeing the parks from the lakes angles. It's actually pretty cool. You're seeing it from a different perspective. But then again, it's just fishing. We're just fishing, man. And then we came home and I had that course that one day carving, and that was so fun. Just a great bunch of guys, and the course went smooth, perfect weather for, it wasn't too hot. It was about 80, but it was overcast. And the people that came, I had I actually had an active duty 101st guy come in. That was,
oh wow,
great kid. Him and his dad brought him in, and his dad actually used to write for American Outdoor Magazine, but his dad was another great participant that was there. Had a Marine Lance Corporal that came in, and it just was a good solid course to come out right. I just got back the night before, so I wasn't really excited to get up and go teach that day. But once we got into it, it was a lot of fun. And Ryan Duvier, who helps me out there, you've met Ryan Lurch.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, he always makes it. He's always smiling. I don't think he ever.
He's a great dude.
Around and Jeremy actually came in. Mitchell came in and helped out. So it was a good way to end kind of the vacation. And now here I am here I am with you. Yeah.
Well, you were all, and I mentioned as well, we didn't talk about it last time, but you were back when you were on. You also had a speaking engagement out of the country for the first time.
Actually, no, that one wasn't coming up. That one actually was just in, where was I? No, yeah, that was, I got the one in St. Kitts coming up. The one that I went.
Are you gonna do like cool stuff, or are you just gonna speak and then fly home?
No, I mean it's a long. St. Kitts is a long flight. You got to fly to Miami, and then it's another 4 hours. So no, I'll stay. I'll stay an extra day.
I just know you for being like, all right, I'm gonna speak and then get the fuck out of here, because I think of, when we were in Vegas, like Vegas. You didn't do any cool Vegas stuff. I didn't really last time either. As you know, though, I was in Vegas more recently for an identity access management conference with my boss Adam. Who, by the way, we gotta get Adam's dad on the show, because Adam's dad is a Vietnam vet and a big 2A guy, and apparently has some really good stories. So Adam's like, you should have my dad on. But that was one of those where I flew in for the conference, we recorded stuff, and then I went home. But like, if I'm in Vegas, man, I like to hit some concerts. I like to hit a magic show or something. Like, I like to do cool stuff,
The one I went to was Marco Island, which was right outside Naples. It's still a night. I mean, it might as well be outside of the country. It's still Marco Island's like a tremendous. I stayed, and I stayed extra day. I love, whenever I go to Marco Island or Naples, they have some of the best beaches, I think, in the world, not just this country, the world. So of course I got to go run. So I went and ran on the beach, and ran probably too far, because it was still, it's what was it, June in Naples, Florida, or Marco Island, Florida, that's 180% humidity. And I ran about 4 miles out there, and it was wonderful. I spoke in the morning, and then I had the rest of the day to just chill out. And it was the concrete, it's a concrete contract for I know, forgive me, you guys, I know some of you guys are listeners out there, but they build all the concrete roads, and they do all the concrete for the state of Florida. And they were great. They treated me so well. And they didn't really, hey, come and speak, and then hang out for a little bit, and then you can have the rest of the 2 days. And the room they got me, a lot of these corporate, they do a good job. And this isn't the only, they give me a really nice room so I can relax. And I kind of wanted to go home right away, but I couldn't find a flight. So I stayed the day, and I just did. It was just fun. I just relaxed. I stayed at the resort, and I relaxed and ran on the beach, and just enjoyed myself, worked out real hard, because that's what I enjoyed doing. And then
I was going to say, this is so funny, because for the audience, they're like, this does not sound like enjoying the, like, you're like, I went for a run, I worked out. It's not like I went to a great restaurant. I saw a show of some sort. It's not my thing, man. I just don't do that. I really don't. I did eat at a great restaurant, because the hotel was at the JW Marriott there in Marco Island, which is a nice hotel. They had great restaurants. Of course, I ate there, and I just honestly, I like to go downstairs if it's a nice resort, and just sit in the lobby with a cup of coffee, and just not really people watch, but just kind of veg out, because it's so relaxing. And a lot of those hotels, they've got the good feng shui going on. And that's what I did. And then I talked to my wife and kids, and I got on plane, and I flew home. And the next week the next few days, a couple of days later, we were driving to Florida, and we stayed at Fairhope, Alabama. Another wonderful place there. If you ever want to go on vacation, you want to go to Florida, go down to stay at the, what was it called? The Grand Hotel right out on Point Hope in Alabama, right off the bay. It's another hidden secret, another hidden gem for nice vacations. I mean, it's pricey. You can get a little expensive, but if you're going on a vacation, although it's probably not pricey compared to here. Nothing's pricey.
Nothing's pricey compared to there, bro. It's not
true.
And it's
LA and New York are like another level.
Crazy. So. But if you're going on vacation, you're putting money away. That's what I do. I save money so I can go on these vacations, because with 3 kids and a wife, it costs a lot of money.
I don't have to deal with that. That's the good thing about being single.
Yeah, you don't. But it was wonderful. And I said, kudos, I really did. I really was. And I do. I don't want to go to Disney and go to the parks and see the wokeness and
yeah, but you're also like a 50-something-year-old man. It's not really for me and you. You know what I mean?
But it's
other than the rock and roller coaster, I would go to that again. That was fun,
Hollywood Studios is still fun. And
did you go on the rock and roller coasters?
Yeah,
because it's so cool having Aerosmith just like blasting in your ears while you're on a roller coaster. That appeals to me. But yeah.
Oh yeah, you always go on that. We're going to Disney for, like I said, 20 plus years. I've been going since Iraq, since I was going to Iraq in 2004. And so we did all of it. We did Tower of Terror, Rock and Roll Roller Coaster. My kids like Hollywood Studios the best at all the parks. We go to Magic Kingdom. The Tron ride they had there was actually pretty cool. I got a lot. The new Tron, and I love Tron. I grew up on the first movie with Jeff Bridges, and then the second one was amazing as well. I think it was a lot better than people thought. So I love the Tron ride, but for the big kids still, Universal still, because they have a rock and roll roller coaster there at Universal that you can actually get in and pick your own tunes. And I picked Motley Crue as you go in. It's got your list.
That's awesome.
You should go, dude. And it's
what would it be like? Kickstart My Heart or something like that?
I feel like My Heart. Yeah, no, it's Kickstart My Heart. They got that one. And then if you want to,
because it's got this skydive naked from an aeroplane, which works perfect.
And then, but they've also got like Eminem on there. Lose Yourself. That's what, of course, my son put on there. My daughter, I forgot to ask her, but there's a country song, a country Leonard Skinner's. I mean, there's just, but it's cool. It's different. It's honestly a little bit better than the Aerosmith one at Hollywood Studios because you can pick your own music while you're going through.
It's also probably updated because that rock and roller coaster was there when I was I was like 13 or 14. So
still the same. Nothing's changed. Yeah, it's still the same. So
yeah, I mean, I don't think I'll ever go to Disney again.
I think
and it is
not just the parks. We just had a lot of fun just at families going to the pool and hanging out, playing at the pool and miniature golf. All my kids love mini golf, and I love doing that too. And yeah, but it was a wonderful way to relax, and the 2 weeks was necessary. I needed that 2 weeks because
nice. Yeah, I haven't had a 2 week vacation in years.
My head wasn't right, so.
Yeah. I don't think I'll ever go to Disney again, but it has nothing to do with politics. It just, there's no reason for me to go. Like,
yeah,
I'm a 37-year-old man without kids. So
yeah, there's no reason.
Next vacation, it's funny, man, because we were talking about being outside the country, and I think back to it feels like it hasn't been that long, but I haven't been outside the country in 7 years, Costa Rica. And then I think back to Israel, and I remember going to Israel and being like, I got to come back here. And that was 2005. And it's like, it's crazy to think how much time flies. So I'll have to do it again at some point. At some point I want to do Japan. It's hard to find the time to do all this and work. And, but the cool thing is with the podcast too, as like Dylan, who does stuff with us, he got a place in Vegas, so I could go down there at any time. But I would like my next trip to not just be all work. I mean, I do need that as well. I do need a time to chill.
You need to even shut down. Even I turn everything off. People couldn't get a hold of me. Those that know me understand. Those that don't, there's a couple people I pissed off. Like, I don't give a shit, dude. I'm with my family, but phone's off. I'm done. No, I'm not talking to any of you. Leave me the F alone. I just need and especially being my son's really, I mean, we'll go on vacation again, of course. My son's not like he's disappearing. He's going to college. But this was like the last family vacation where everybody was still at home. And and my wife, I it's going to bother, of course, I'm going to cry when he goes to college. My wife definitely is, because she raised that boy when I was gone all the time. I mean, she was father and mother, because I was gone all the time. And I can tell around them, she loves my daughter, of course, she loves my little boy, but there's that bond that is with my oldest, because I wasn't around. And so it was just her and him. And man, I one of these days I am going to post a video of where they used to send me the first time I saw him walk was on Skype. The first time he even said a word, like actual word, I saw it on Skype because I was gone. And a lot of you guys out there listening know what that feeling's like. But watching that now,
Taylor said the same thing when he was on.
When he was gone, I mean, there's a lot of those things but my wife, just her watching it and remembering her putting that on there and me. I mean, it's the same. It hurts. It's just as hard on the person that's there, the parents that's there, than the parent that's gone. Yeah. And my wife had a wonderful time too. It was just a good vacation. It was a great vacation, man. It was a great time as a family. So I can't complain. And now I'm back here in Kansas, in my little town, and life's good, bro. I mean, it's just cool. I say it's good. We're good. Barbecue, some water. Still got these little munch bars out there that I used to have in the MREs. These are gold. All you Ranger School guys from back in the 90s and the 2000s, you know what I'm talking about. If you found one of these in an MRE, it was like, oh my gosh, I got a gold bar in my MRE. We still have.
It's like I've never seen those, but that's because it's foreign to me.
These are so old, but they have them here. So I'm talking about small town, and so it's good. And then now now we're back after, but I can't really say I'm working.
Yeah.
I don't ever feel like I'm working. The stuff I do isn't a job to me, and that's how it should be, in my opinion. I don't know.
I feel like I'm working, but not just this. Because I'm doing a lot of different things. I've been extremely busy. Actually, I've had like no time to do anything. The only little break from all that I could say I got recently was on Saturday. I saw LA Guns for probably like the 6th time.
Holy shit! Dude, how old are they now? They're old as me.
They're around your age, man.
Yeah, they've been around a long ass time.
It's not that long though. I mean, Aerosmith is still touring. Kiss is still touring. They're not as old as them. So
those guys are like 90. There is a time to wrap it up. LA Guns isn't that.
LA Guns is still great, and it's funny because I was sending Jimmy Allen a video. And the funny thing about LA Guns is that Phil Lewis still tries to look like all glam on stage. Tracy Guns is just up there in basketball shorts and Jordans and shredding, man. And he still sounds, I still think Tracy Guns is one of the best guitarists out there. So it's cool. I always say I have no interest in going back to Connecticut, but the show was in Connecticut. So I drove to CT because it was on a weekend. I can't really do anything during the weeks these days. And had a great time, man. And actually, I mean, it's summer, there's a ton of concerts coming up, a ton of tours. Even guys we've had on the show, like Corey Taylor, he's got his summer tour. I'll try to hit one of those. And then we have the lead singer. It's funny to say singer because there's no singing in Carnifex, but like the lead vocalist of Carnifex,
those guys
very similar name to mine, Scott Ian Lewis. They're on tour. So there's a ton of great summer shows coming up. No matter where you are, really. If you look at the tour dates for like them, Corey Taylor. A lot of it, even Jimmy Allen hasn't been in them for years, but Puddle of Mud, because they have a new album coming out in September, which I was just texting Jimmy about. A lot of stuff.
If Jimmy's watching, buddy, I'm sorry. When I changed my phone number, I totally spaced it and I didn't give it to Jimmy. So I will, but I'm not gonna give it here on the podcast. But if you're listening, my apologies. I'm a douchebag. I will get you my new cell so we can conversate. Because I think he hit up Ryan at Fort Scott and said, "Hey, is Tanto all right?" And Ryan hit me up and like, "Hey, did you tell Jimmy?" I'm like, "Holy shit, no, I didn't, man." So I apologize. I just want to do that publicly right here for everybody. Jimmy, my bad, brother. You can kick me in my nuts next time you come.
If he hears this, I mean, I know he's a fan. I don't know if he listens to
every
episode.
If he does it, but if he hears, it's just a shot in the dark. If he does,
it's true. It'll be cool if he just happens to be hearing it and hears that. But yeah, he's a great dude. I was sending him video of Tracy Guns just shredding, and he knows better than me because he's such a good guitarist. Even though, basically like their styles, his Phil's style, Tracy's style is more of like a just shredding to the max style. You know what I mean? And Puddle of Mud, it's more just that riff, just hard rock riffs. That's what they do.
Well, it's got more soul. I think just even listening back to AC/DC, a lot of those bands, and why change that formula? When you got that good bass soul in there, and then you got a person that can actually put those riffs together. And you're not trying to make money, but that's what sells. But that's also, to me, that's what sounds the best. I do like people that can tear it up, but when you got that good, but you got that good. Van Halen, when you got that good,
Van Halen had it all. Rhythm. They had everything.
Yeah, rhythm, and then you can throw in a good tear it up and then get back to the rhythm. I use the example AC/DC because they know how to do it, and they just. Everything when you can start doing, and you're not, if everybody that's watching us on YouTube, watching my head and listen to a rock band, and now you start doing this, they're good. That's a good fucking rock band right there. And Jimmy, he knows that because sorry, Puddle of Mud. Hey man, if you hadn't had Jimmy Allen, you wouldn't be where you're at today. And you can hate me for saying that, but that's the God honest truth.
I don't think they do though, because I've actually, I watched like all these interviews, and Wes Scantlin, like I saw an interview with him where they were asking him about She Hates Me. And he's like, yeah, that was me and Jimmy. Like, I do think it's cool. They still give credit, and he still talks to him apparently. But anyway, more importantly, we've got Ashlee Leppert. Previously, I have to remember Ashlee Olbricht because I'm looking at the cover when it was Ashlee Leppert, but coming on. But before we do, I've got my Fort Scott Munitions shirt on. We were just talking about Fort Scott Munitions. Fort Scott is a manufacturer of multi-federal patented solid copper and brass CNC spun ammunition. It's designed to tumble upon impact. Harold, if you pan over to me, I've got my tin over here. But yeah, I love their stuff. Tumbles upon impact in soft tissue, leaving devastating wound channels for faster bleed out and quicker incapacitation. This ammunition was originally developed to innovate and improve on the standard of military grade ammunition design. It was found that not only did the TUI ammunition outperform competitors in the self-defense industry, but it quickly became apparent that it would be a top contender for hunters alike. With the ammunition being CNC spun, the tolerances are some of the tightest on the market, ensuring that you receive the same results with each pull of the trigger. Fort Scott Munitions is available throughout privately owned businesses in every state, but you could just go to fsm.com, use the promo code BattleLine. You'll get 15% off ammo, 15% off shirts like the one I happen to be wearing. I don't know about some of the more higher price gear. You'll get some type of discount on those from what I know. You just go to fsm.com. Simple as that. Promo code BattleLine. Fort Scott Munitions is a proud supporter of Chris Peranto, Battleline Tactical, and the Battleline podcast. And yeah, this is what you shoot with if you come to a course.
It's amazing ammo, best out there by far. And the company itself, just so much integrity. They always try to do it right. Whether they screw up, they always try to make something right. Whether it's not their fault or somebody else's fault, which I example shipping or anything like that, they always have the intestinal fortitude to try to make it right. And that says a lot for their character. And it is within their products because their products are tremendous. So yeah, and if you ever come to a Battleline course, they give us wholesale prices on ammo if you attend the course. So sometimes just coming to the course, it's worth it because you're getting such a 35% discount on ammo. And guys, that's a lot for, and ammo is expensive these days. And that just says a lot about their integrity, but also their product is tremendous. So yeah, best on the market, guys, by far.
Absolutely. All right, let's get over to Ashlee Olbricht. So joining us for the first time on the podcast is someone we've followed for a while, has followed the podcast for a while, but we're happy to do it. Ashlee Olbricht, formerly Ashlee Leppert, I should say, because that's on the book itself. Coast Guard Air Medal recipient, flight mechanic, rescued people and helped people out during the Category 4 Hurricane Harvey in Texas in 2017. And there's a ton of stuff we could talk about. I mean, guest of President Trump during the 2018 State of the Union address. You speak about that in here. And by the way, it was cool watching you get a whole standing ovation. And actually, the first thing I'll say is this is just an extremely well-written book. I love the fact that like every chapter starts with a quote, whether it's like an inspirational quote or a Bible verse. Like I can tell you put a lot of heart into this.
Thank you. Yeah, I can't take solo credit. I had a lot of good people in my life that helped me fine tune and edit it. But yes, thank you. I just wanted to be authentic and real.
It is.
And that's the best way to be. People can see through bullshit right off the bat if you got it. I mean, I still see through my bullshit all the time, especially my wife. But more than anything, she's been around me enough. Ashlee,
brother.
Do this since people may not have read the book or that follow our podcast or may not know your story. And since, if you're good, we'll have you on again. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how.
Why do you always start the interview with "We'll have you on again"? They haven't even heard
no
her
pressure,
say anything
right?
yet.
I just said if she's good. I put that precursor.
Nothing has happened yet.
We got it. But I just tell us your story, and I think that's the best way to start with this. Is just, hey, why did the Battleline podcast have Ashlee on? And of course, pitch your book, but not so much that's not gonna get them to go buy it. We still want to make you some money out there if we can. But yeah, tell us your story and just start from the beginning. My start would be where I want to know is not from the beginning growing up. Man, maybe you can throw in there, but your military. What made you join and how'd that go? And if you got any funny stories from there, let's go with that.
Wow, where do I begin? I guess I'll give you the Cliff Note version, but I think the theme of my life and my military service is that God can use ordinary people to do extraordinary things. There is nothing special about me. I grew up in the suburbs of Detroit, middle-class home, and I sort of went through a lot of various trials in my early upbringing, and I kind of think I was running towards something and I didn't know what. I think we can all kind of relate to that at our youth and our our growing years in our 20s. And I wanted to serve. I just loved this country. And when I was pitching it to my parents, they're like, Marines, Army, Air Force. But I was like, Coast Guard. And they're like, yeah, you'll be in the United States. We can get down with that. So I joined, and, you know, I loved every minute of it. And, you know, the blessings that come from that, I sort of never really recognized would be there, but I just say good job at doing my job, you know. And as you know, Chris, nobody goes in for the awards and the medals. We just want to know that we completed the job seamlessly and that our training, you know, went off without a hitch. And I was grateful for that.
So what was the Coast Guard Coast Guard training like when you first got there? I've had some buddies that have gone through that, and actually, it's funny story is that was what I first picked to go into, was actually go through the Coast Guard Academy, and then I got the Ranger spiel, and no, I dumped the contract because I had actually a contract go through the Coast Guard Academy to become an officer at direct commission. But yeah, the Ranger recruiter saw me and said, what Coast Guard? come on, man, you would be a Ranger. But you know, go through that, because we have a lot of guys that have been in the military, Air Force, Army, and we talk about basic training. We have never talked about Coast Guard basic ever. So let's talk about it, because hey, you're subject matter expert number one right there. Let's go through that, because I've heard it can be quite difficult. And at the time is there's some hazing every once in a while, because you are off the radar. Nobody's paying attention because it's the Coast Guard. It's Coast Guard. I've heard some stories that it can get a little squirrely up there. They can do some things to you because you are off the radar. So if you have any of those stories you can tell us, and I want to hear them.
Well, first of all, the banter against the Coast Guard is still there. We're like the redheaded stepchildren of the military. So I'm down for the jokes if you got them. But you know, I feel like I was a little bit more prepared for Coast Guard boot camp simply because I had been on the swim team my whole high school career. So I was very comfortable in the water. But I believe, if I'm saying this correctly, the Coast Guard boot camp is second hardest under the Marines as far as training, because there's so much water survival. You have to be comfortable, as you guys know. I mean, being under the water is very scary. So you have to be able to step out of that fear in your mind, like a lot of things in life, and just focus on the end goal, which for me was graduating and be able to fly in helicopters and do badass missions and save people. But Coast Guard boot camp itself, it's simply a mind game. They will work with you as far as the physical aspects. If you can't do X amount of push-ups, or if you can't swim, you know, your 50-yard in X amount of time, like they'll work with you to a certain extent. But if you don't have it here, you're not going to make it out there when shit hits the fan and you've got to go on these missions, like flying in the middle of a hurricane, you know. So I think they weed out the weak in boot camp, and I just happened to, you know, make it through, which I'm grateful, by the grace of God. But I didn't drown and didn't kill anybody, so we're good.
And you're spot on the water aspect. Oh, you know, the SEALs that just died, a few, you know, is because of hypothermia, or they had something on maybe with the lungs. I can't remember, and we talked about it, but
yeah,
the danger.
And when you say just die, I mean, there was a statement on it, but it's a couple years.
It was a couple years ago. The most recent that has been in the media. But you're right. The water training, it has a mental game with you. And I do remember going, even at Ranger Battalion, I was on the water infiltration team, which I was like, why do we have a water infiltration team? We'll never do it. It'll get the recon Marines will get it, or the SEALs will get it. I think they're just doing it so they can haze the shit out of us. But doing the drown proofing, or even back in the day when we used to do the flutter kicks and they put the hose and you charge your mask and they put the hose in your mouth, and watching, and I picked it up pretty early, and I wanted to see if you agree with it, that as long as you didn't panic, they would always move on to that next person, or they'd quit trying to drown you if you would stop panicking, ripping your. And it was the ones that were kept panicking in the water that they kept going after. Is that what you saw just on your specific events? Is that once you could calm yourself down in the water, like it's like a dog with a chew toy. As soon as that chew toy is done, they'll go to the next chew toy. The cat will go to the next mouse that's still alive. And I remember that, just relax. Take a breath of water, drink it. It's just water. Okay. And then they'd move to the next person that kept panicking. What did you see on a lot of your drown proofing exercises or the water exercises? Did you see that same thing as far as just being able to calm your mind so the instructors would quit screwing with you?
Well, the instructors, they can smell the fear.
Yeah.
They can see it. They can
Yes.
look at you and say, is this person going to break? But full transparency, the rescue swimmer program, they did the hardcore, like what you're talking about with the flutter kicks and the hosing and the underwater, survival techniques.
Yeah.
That's more of the rescue swimmer training facility that they go through. But just regular Coast Guard boot camp, we did certain amount of swims with like all of our heavy gear on and things like that. So we did like the preliminary, and then we went to our avionics, like my tech school. That's when we got a little bit more in depth with like the dunker, the under. Yeah. So like,
talk about that. Yeah, talk about the dunker. Tell me what, because
Bro.
I never got to do that. That looked like a fun ride, but still, like, oh my gosh, I'm in a cockpit. Is that when like where you simulate a crash going in, right? And you have to get out of a helicopter or a jet, and you're underwater. Is that what the dunker is, right?
Yeah, so let me paint the scene for you.
All right.
So it's like this big crane over the pool. It's like a simulated helicopter, and everybody gets in. So you have your pilot's co-pilot position, and then you have all your crew position, and you just strap in. You don't have any Heeds bottle, your underwater oxygen. You don't have any of that. And you're just like slowly the water's rising as you're going down. You're like,
wow,
cool. Like, I might just not make it out today in this training facility. Like, it's super embarrassing, but everybody's playing cool. Like, oh, I got this. But the second that water hits right here, everybody kind of just starts internally panicking. Nobody enjoys the dunker. It like straight up sucks. I'm not going to lie. But there are these like the instructors there like standing by in case someone like taps out with a cutthroat. And but yeah, you basically, not only do you have to get out of the helicopter, but there's like a sequence of events that you have to follow like to a T. For example, you have to do your check. So you have to pretend that you're getting the survival knife and cutting your seatbelt. And then you have to do your 5-point harness, and then you can't kick with your legs because you could kick somebody else. So you have to use your arms and slowly find your way to the exit. But you're upside down.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. Okay, keep going. I guess I never really paid attention to that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's wild, dude. And like you're doing all of this and like trying to keep track of the steps like while you're upside down. So you have water going in your nose. Like, dude, it's a mess. But that's another example of where they weed out all the people that just like can't make it. Because if you crash in a helicopter in the water, like survival is pretty key there. So
well,
I'll be the first to say, as the outlier with no military training in this discussion, I would tap out. I know it. Like I'm not someone who's going to sit here and be badass. I mean, there's a few things probably that military guys do that I could do. This is definitely not one of them. I am not comfortable with any of the simulated drowning at all. I'd be out immediately. And actually, to me, that goes into partially why this book is so important of a read. Because I will say, I mean, when people think of the job that you did on helicopters and the training you went through, it is stereotypically like a very macho, masculine thing. And I don't think there's enough books. I mean, I know like Amber Smith, formerly Amber Barno, wrote a book about her time as a pilot, or like Carrie Lorenz, if I'm saying her name right. But there's a few books, not as many. Like there's way more books with a story like Tanto's, or we said Mark Luttrell's. But a book like this that could show that, yes, you could be a feminine female that does badass stuff.
I like how I said feminine too. Excellent job.
It's true. I mean, but you are fully indicative of that. Like people seeing the podcast could see you are 100% female. You're wearing a dress right now, and you do stuff that the average man would be very scared to do, including myself.
And honestly, that's the funniest part about going through some of these trainings is you see like the most badass, buff, muscular dude who you're like, oh, he's not scared of this. And right before we go under, they're like, wait, no, I need like 5 more minutes. Hold on. And I'm just sitting there rolling, laughing. And that's the funniest part.
It's a testament to the physical strength. There's a necessity for that. But anything that you go that's arduous, that needs to be a vetting process to weed people out. It's the mental, it's the mind game. That's what gets most people. It's not the physical stuff. It's the mental mind. I call them in the Ranger way. I say, fuck games. That's what gets you. And that's what it is. Because in your head, you're sitting there and you're simulating things could go wrong. Instead of just turning your head off, it's like, stop thinking of all the bad stuff. Can you turn it off and just do. And and honestly, it's very easy because they give you a set of steps that you have to go through, that you have to think about it. So stop thinking about all the bad stuff. Let's just focus on, okay, step one, I gotta cut my strap. Step two, I gotta and that allows you to turn all those bad things off and just focus on, this is my job. But that's essentially what you're going to do under duress too. And we'll get into the hurricane, because we could segue right into the hurricane, but I don't want to do that yet because we still got a lot of time. But where something is for real, and now it's okay, what do I do? How do I not panic? I got a job to do. Step by step, let's just do this job, and I don't have to worry about the bad things because I can focus on what is in front of me and what they're requiring me to do step by step. But I think that's what helps many people that get through it. And in your case, especially because you even mentioned it, is that I thought about the step-by-step stuff. I didn't think about the panic. Yeah, it still sucked when the water gets up. So, okay, when the water gets to right here, what did you do to turn off? And maybe we may be reiterating the same point I'm saying, but what did you do to turn off that panic switch? Because I panicked too when the water started to get up there. And you had to turn it off somehow. What did you do specifically in your head or physically?
I mean, like 100%, it's uncomfortable. Like, I'm not even gonna deny that it's uncomfortable. Nobody enjoys doing that. And if you do enjoy it, you might be not firing on all cylinders, you know what I'm saying? But I think, and this is in multiple aspects in life, we fail to realize how powerful our brain is and how powerful our thoughts are. And if we can focus on, for example, going to the dunker and knowing, okay, this is going to suck. I'm going to be under the water. They're going to simulate us basically drowning in a helicopter. How are you going to react? And I'm just going to tell myself, oh, I'm going to get out of this. I'm going to survive. I'm going to follow my steps and stick to our training, because it kicks in. Our training always kicks in. Yeah. And also I had to remind myself, like, I'm not going to die. Like, worst case scenario, I cut throat, I tap out, my homie is over there giving me a hard time for bailing, and then I retry it, right? Like,
or you pass out and they revive you. I mean, that's what I thought, because that happened to guys would drink water and they pass. They always got revived, and they're just like, I got guys there. Don't make me come back to life. I'll be good to go.
100%. Yeah, it's just a matter of, like, we as human beings, like, decision make off emotions a lot of time and not facts. And the fact is, nobody has ever really died doing that, right? It's a training simulation. So if we can focus our attention on the facts, okay, Ashlee, you know your training. You're not going to die. It's going to suck, but you're going to push through, and you're going to get out, and you're going to go have beers later and celebrate that you're done. Like, let's focus on the good stuff here. You know what I mean?
And also, I mean, a big thing in the book, and people who follow you on Instagram, I mean, it sounds like faith is a huge part of you being able to overcome obstacles like that.
It is the 100% foundation of who I am, and how I'm truthfully sitting here before you today is my faith and my trust that no matter what happens, my creator has my back. The creator of the universe has my back. Like, man, if that doesn't give you a warm and fuzzy to navigate the the hard times in life, I don't really know what will.
Did you have strong faith going in, or did it resonate more and get stronger once you were there? That's what happened to me. I had to go to church growing up, but I went to church because I had to. God was in my life, but it was a side note. Yeah, I know God's there. My faith got stronger the longer I stayed in and the more I saw. Some guys, it's the opposite. What was yours like? Did you already have strong faith, or were you like, hey, Christian, yeah, God's in my life, but that's because it's a traditional family. God's in our life. That's just how it is. And then it got stronger, or were you really strong to begin with, and that's what made it so easy for you to have that faith. Mine was the opposite. I had to grow. My faith grew as I stayed in.
Well, I grew up with knowing of God, but to answer your question, I was sort of struggling at this point in my life. I had gone through watching my parents struggle with addiction. I had gone through a sexual assault. My body was failing me at this time because I was battling this rare autoimmune thing, and I was frustrated with that. And I had a moment where I was like, God, I'm a little pissed off at you. Like, I feel like I'm trying to believe in you, and around every corner, I feel like you're not there working in my life. And there was a point during the hurricane where, in zero visibility, 60-mile-per-hour gust winds, shit wind sideways. It was in that moment where I had a cabin full of babies that I had just rescued. And I thought to myself, God, if you're out there, please get us to the landing zone safe, because I don't mind crashing in a helicopter and dying. That's kind of a cool way to go out, in my opinion. But we have these babies in here, and I don't want that to happen to them. And I swear on my life that I looked out the right side cabin sliding door window, and that visibility that used to be almost zero, it parted just enough for me to see this brilliant, white, beautiful cross shining back at me. And it was in that moment that I was just reminded, it like hit me like a ton of bricks, where God was like, and I say this all the time in my speeches because it was such a profound moment, not only in my life, but in my faith walk. I just felt God reminding me, like, my child, like, have I not commanded you, be courageous? The Lord your God is with you wherever you go. That's Joshua 1:9. And that has been a pillar of moving forward in my faith walk, that, again, we can't go off of our emotions. We can't go off of what we see. Just know that God is with you. He's in the middle of every storm in your life. Even if you don't see it, he's working. And so in the middle of this physical storm, I had this internal storm that I was dealing with, and God just calmed both of them and revealed himself to me in that moment. And that's why I have been sort of on this journey to be so loud with my story and with my my inspiration and my faith, because I think the world more than ever needs to hear that now in this dark spiritual warfare I believe that we're in. And so it's not about Ashlee, Olbricht, or Leppert, it's about me talking about my faith and God.
And that takes courage in this day and age too, is to talk about God, because people don't, the mainstream, people want to hear it. I've done enough speeches, and we follow each other on the speech side. You're very nice on your comments on my stuff too. I really appreciate that. But that they want to hear it after a speech, a corporate event. Hey, thank you for your testimony. It's hey, thanks for your service, but I get more of, hey, thank you for having the balls or having the guts to talk about God. And these are anywhere from real estate agents to IT people to bankers and these are just, the people that make this country go and succeed and be successful. So yeah, I found that God needs to be talked about more, because more people, at least the mainstream, they don't want to talk about it. It's not, and that makes, to my eyes, that makes you be a warrior out there, continually talk about it. Do you find that the same? Because you're doing a lot of speaking too. Do you get a lot of people coming up after? And be honest, I may say, oh, no, I really haven't. Or yeah, I do get people coming up and saying, yes, thank you for talking about God, or thank you for your testimony. Are you seeing it out there as much as I am when I do my speeches? Because I do see it a lot.
I see it all the time. And, that truly for me is the fuel to continue going, because full honesty, I don't enjoy getting on stage. I'm a helicopter mechanic. Like, I find comfort in troubleshooting a problem. You know what I mean? So it's, to me, the most courageous thing that I'm doing, it wasn't flying in the middle of a hurricane saving people. That was just my job. I feel like the most heroic thing that I can do now is to stand boldly and share all these bits and pieces of my life, the good, the bad, and the ugly, particularly my faith, because the world needs to hear it, like you said. And I find so many times that people are like, wow, I can't believe that you not only have gone through what you did, but that it made you closer to God instead of being pushed further away. And there's just something beautiful in that, and planting a seed, right? We're just called to plant seeds, and I'm not out here to convert the world, but I am here to share my personal testimony. And as you know, people look up to that, and they question it, and it gets them to go on their own faith journey. And because of all the questions that I would get after my speaking engagements, back on the hangar deck, when the airmen used to come to me with a problem, I would say, hey, come to me not only with the problem, but a solution. Yeah. And so I sort of live my life that way, that people after my speech would say, hey, can I talk to you about this circumstance or this? And I felt bad unintentionally dismissing them. And I thought, how can I not do that? So I decided to get my mental health coaching and my life coaching. So that way, in that moment, when I'm busy signing books or talking to people, I could say, hey, here's my card. I care about what you have to say, but let's talk at a more appropriate time so I can give you the attention that I want to give you. So that helped me broaden my spectrum and talk to people. And, there's something beautiful in sharing our testimonies.
And that's cool that you were able to transition what you're doing into other things. And I think that's just how you could say God works in our life, but also just how life works. I think that if you're doing something you're passionate about, that you really believe in, it's going to work in your favor in other avenues. But since we're talking about the hurricane itself a little bit, I actually think we should get into it, because for this book, that's the defining moment. That's what got you there at the State of the Union. And actually, if you guys pull up the State of the Union, I'll have Harold put it on here, but I mean, you got a standing ovation from all of Congress. There's very few things that like all of Congress can agree on. But when Trump, talked about your heroism, everybody stood up and applauded. It was cool to see.
We heard tales of Americans like Coast Guard Petty Officer Ashlee Leppert, who is here tonight in the gallery with Melania.
So, yeah, I mean, this book, there's other stuff I want to talk about too, because it's like growing up in Detroit. You have a lot of cool stuff about that, family things. But I think the defining moment, what made you write a book, was Hurricane Harvey. So, yeah, let's get into it.
Well, man, where do I begin? So, and I think, Tanto, you'll agree with me on this. Like, we train, but we never really know to the full extent what mission we're going to go on. It's kind of like day to day. All right, we're getting called to go out here. Hey, we got to rescue this person. Let's make a briefing and let's get ready to roll. Hurricane Harvey was a little different because we were all so acutely aware of what we were going to encounter. Like, a typical hurricane hits the coast and it dissipates, and then you might have a few rescues and, you move on. But Hurricane Harvey was just chilling for a hot minute, and the flooding just kept going and going and going. And I think we were not prepared for it. But being that I was one of the very first helicopters on scene, I think the most devastating part was there was just mad chaos. There was people everywhere that needed help and animals that needed help. And so, being intrinsically a, first responder and wanting to help everybody, it was hard for us to streamline it and say, okay, we have to go with the most critical people first. So it was a pregnant woman, who was stuck in her apartment complex about to give birth, and then there was these children that I'd mentioned with feeding tubes and all these things that needed to get from point A to point B. So it truly was mad chaos. And I remember at one point looking up into the horizon, and it looked so apocalyptic is the best way to describe it. It was just like flood. I mean, all you saw was rooftops and, random helicopters starting to come on scene, just like you just see people hoisted up and hoisted down. And it was madness, but there was such a calming peace throughout me after seeing that cross and knowing there was angels surrounding us and we were getting the job done.
Now, was it Houston, right?
Yes.
Because Harvey was Houston. I was trying to remember what Harvey was, because I'm with that. How are you getting? Mine's more a technical question. Anything. Who was providing you with the orders and the people? How was it? Just 911, or was there? I mean, how did you know? There's so many people that need to be helped. How did the command structure know who to go get? And once you know and can get the information, you can prioritize. My guess is how the hell are you getting the information? I mean, everything's down. There's nothing to get the information. How are you calling? Is somebody calling? I guess cell phones, the advantage of cell phones, there's a tower still up, but who's telling you to get those people and where they're at? And then the command structure prioritizes it. I've always wondered about that on these big hurricanes or natural catastrophes when just common stuff goes down and there's no contact with anybody. How do you guys figure it out? I just figure you just fly around and see somebody on a rooftop, you pick them up, but it's not like that. So can you go into that a little bit on the technical side, or maybe it is like that?
I was gonna say, so like off the cuff, being that we were the one-stop show on scene, it was sort of chaotic. We were just looking for people hanging on their roof, waving their shirt, trying to get us for help. So it was boom, 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 just going wherever we saw, because there was really not a command center structure and that typical, hey, here's the coordinates, here's the person in distress. It was just pure chaos, literally. So the first day of hoisting was madness. And so we were simply just flying around, seeing who needed help and just getting as many people as possible, landing on the I-10, which was such an odd anomaly to me, like landing on a highway. But our drop-off zone was the convention center. So it was just keep on rolling, hot refuel, keep on rolling, hot refuel. But as the days progressed and we recognized really quickly that this was far bigger of an emergency than we had planned on, that's when we had more of an operations center giving us, they had calls coming in, 911 calls, and believe it or not, Facebook and like social media was like a huge a way for people to just put their message out so they could get help. But truth be told, I really couldn't tell you a whole lot of the operations aspect of it, being that I was on the flight crew and I was just, whenever we got a call, it was like, Roger that, we're going. But as the days progressed and the importance of this sort of grew, we kind of streamlined, okay, all the calls are going to be funneled into the operations center, and then they were diverting different helicopters to different areas. And so it kind of became a little bit more structured, but I mean, it was all hell broke loose the first day. It was like, do what you can do.
And I guess that's what I was getting. I was like, is it because I always wondered, you guys just a bunch of helicopters flying in, and how do you not crashing into each other? Where's the air traffic? That's my dumb Ranger mindset. I'm thinking all this tactical stuff and technical stuff, where I guess I'm just trying not. I should be thinking about human life. I'm thinking, how the hell are they doing this with no coordination? But that's cool, and that shows the greatness of the training. That shows the greatness of military and paramilitary, and the mindset of, hey, we just got to go get the job done. Let's get in there and we'll figure it out. And that's actually, that's how, I don't care who Ranger, SEAL, so forth. Yeah, we have a command structure, but half the time, or if not 75% of the time, it's let's go. We'll figure it out.
You're making decisions on the spot. Yes.
On the way. I think that's what pissed us most off about guys too, is that they wouldn't. That's what we wanted to do. Just let us go. And we don't know what that was going on, but we're not going to know anything from here. Can we just go? And having a command that lets you do that, I think you showed again, and it showed many other aspects, many other teams out there have shown that as well. A command structure that trusts its unit, it says just go, we'll get you spun up along the way, is more successful than one that just tries to hold on to you and say, hey, no, you ain't doing anything because we're command and control, you're not doing shit because we don't trust you.
Exactly.
And I say that you guys did an outstanding job, because your command structure said, hey, you guys got this, just go, we'll get you spun up as you get there. And did you feel that way? I'm assuming this as I'm talking to you that you did, but it sounds like you guys had a tremendous command structure.
Well, thank you. And I will take the thanks on behalf of all the crews that were out there. I never take solo credit. As you know, it takes the team to get the job done for sure. But let me tell you, the coolest part that I think, looking back at it, is you have one unit, right? And you normally fly with the same pilots, the same rescue swimmers. You have the same area of responsibility. So you know where the towers are, but the coolest part about Hurricane Harvey, in my opinion, was we were thrown into a new environment where we didn't know where the risks were. We didn't know the area of responsibility. We were thrown into a helicopter with brand new pilots that we never flew with swimmers that we may have known, and we did the job seamlessly. And to me, that is a testament of the hard dedication and the training program of all the Coast Guard units, that like, it's all the same. I could go anywhere and fly with any pilot, and we're going to know how to get the job done.
The SOPs are standard, and that's for everybody. And we're not filching it for this person. We're keeping the standards. A lot of businesses, and actually the government in itself that we have, especially currently, could learn from that standard operating procedures, and we don't fudge them for anybody. If you don't pass, you don't pass. If you can't work those SOPs down, then you're not belong to the crew. But it is a testament. Bring guys in. Hey, we never worked together, but we have the same SOPs. We can go get the job done. And again, you're in a testament to many teams out there that in the military itself, especially special operations community itself as well. That's how we work. And I'm a testament to that as well, and also having just tremendous people to work around. You're only as good as your team. You're only as good as your person right and left you. And I can honestly say that as well. So I I wanted to, and I don't want people to buy your book. I do, but I did want you to talk the actual event, the big one, rescuing the children, because hey, I hate turbulence, just normal turbulence. And so I want to know if you can you talk about from, and we got about 25 minutes left or so, if you got enough time, can you talk about that actual op and even get detailed? Because I want to be on my seat like this, because just feeling the turbulence as you're talking about it, if you can, without giving so much away that people don't want to go buy your book.
They're going to buy the book regardless.
Okay, I just want to make sure. I just want to.
The book is, because I can tell you, someone who read not the whole thing, but I did get a chance to read through your book, and I mean, there's so much to hear about growing up, about your experience. So yeah, but anyway,
so good, Jared. So Ian's backing me up there. Can you talk about, if you're willing to? I would love to hear from start to finish. In your words right here, because it's something that I can imagine, just the adrenaline, and I'd like to hear it if you can.
Absolutely. I'm not even gonna lie, my hands are sweating right now. Like it all just comes back to me, and I enjoy talking about it. But it definitely, like, there's that trigger of like going back and unfolding it. But first of all, I have to say, you guys are phenomenal for like a marketing team. Like, you guys are like doing the jam here for sharing the story. So thank you.
No, but I mean, I will say, I really appreciate you like sending it out. I love when we get hard copies. I love that you personally signed it. Last episode I was speaking with Matt Waters, and he was talking about moving, right, and all the stuff you have to move with. And I'm like, I have so many books over the years that special operators, military people have signed to me personally. It's like, I can't get rid of those. Those will always be with me. And that's such a valuable thing to have. I would never get, so I value each of those books that I get from people who've been on the show or even want to be on the show that signed a book to me personally. But we appreciate it. And yeah, we'd love to hear, that whole story.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate you guys. So I'm just glad you enjoyed my story, and hopefully you learned a little bit more about Coast Guard aviation, because a lot of people out there have no clue what we do. And I'm like, yo, we're the first line of defense in the US. Like, we're doing law enforcement, drug interdiction, migrant operations.
I watch Deadliest Catch all the time. You guys are out there saving people's asses.
Thank you.
No, the Coast Guard, the rescue. If I would have went to the Coast Guard instead of the Rangers, I would have wanted to become a rescue, because there's some cool shit out there, man. And I tell you, man, flying into those storms, that's why I want to hear it. Because I said, that wasn't my job. We never flew into storms like going into the teeth of a hurricane and in a helicopter. And I love helicopters. So that's why I want to hear. I think that's probably one of the coolest things that I have not done yet. Probably will never do, because it's okay. I've done my thing. I don't need the adrenaline rush anymore. But I still would want to hear about it. So I want to hear from your point of view what that was like.
For sure. You got it. Well, I will say that it would be super rad to fly in a helicopter with you and do some missions just for the record.
I'm too old and my knees hurt too much. I can't do it.
Same. I'm like at the age where I'm like hurting myself in my sleep and I'm waking up. I'm like, dude, I'm only 38. How is this possible? But anyway.
I'm only 27 as far as yeah.
Well, so, okay, let me take you back to August, I believe it was 27th, 2017. This is kind of a cool story, precursor to the actual mission of with the babies, but one of my rescue swimmers that I happen to have been stationed in Detroit with, he had been stationed in Corpus Christi at the time of Hurricane Harvey. And this was the second day. So everybody was kind of swarming in from all units, just sending, all hands on deck kind of mission. And my rescue swimmer on this second day of mission happened to be rescue swimmer Troy Ramsdell that I had trained up in Detroit. So it was super cool to be like, we pounded fists real quick and I was like, bro, you're my rescue swimmer. And he's like, you're my flight mechanic. So it was a really cool moment, doing a quick pre-flight on the helicopter and kind of prepping for like, man, shit's about to go down kind of thing. So anyways, we get a call, and I still to this day don't know exactly where the location was, but it was either a children's recovery facility or it was something where there was just a mass amount of children with different, issues that needed to be out. So we fly to this area. So, I mean, and it's just crazy because we're in the smallest helicopter the Coast Guard has. It is a short range recovery MH-65 Dolphin. So like you blow on it and it's like, woo, like it does not handle turbulence and wind well, but the pilots are super amazing at what they do, and they kept a steady course. But so we get this call to go out. We're on this mission. We got the coordinates. They're like, all right, be prepared. A lot of people out there. But backtracking, I did not know this. We did not know this at the time that there was a bunch of children there. They just said, hey, here's the coordinates, roll out. People are in trouble. So we get there, and I con the pilots into position, which means that I'm literally at this point hanging out of the helicopter. I'm, keeping the pilots in position. I'm lowering my rescue swimmer down on the hook. And I mean, there's a huge tree behind us. There's power lines in front of us. So my head's on a swivel, constantly keeping the pilots in check and making sure we don't hit anything. And I lower the swimmer down. He's in the water, and I see, slowly we're getting people in. We fill the cabin up, we drop them off at the convention center. But the second sortie out, I lower my swimmer down, and I notice that he puts a woman into the basket. And I see just bundles of what I thought at the time to be like clothes. And I'm thinking to myself, Troy, bro, like, stop putting this lady's clothes in the basket. Like, we need to save room for humans, man. Like, what are you doing? But as you know, you just trust your team. I'm like, he knows what he's doing down there. I'm just going to trust him. So this is the last hoist. There's a woman in what I think to be 5 bundles of clothing, and I'm hoisting her up. I slide her into the cabin with the basket. I disconnect, lower it down just enough time to get my rescue swimmer before it's like bingo and we got to go. We're out of fuel. So as I finally get him in the cabin, and mind you, there's 5 to 6 other people and their babies already in there. So we're crammed tight. And I have my rescue swimmer, and I'm holding on to him, and we're heading over to the landing zone. And I happen to look back, and she's undoing the mother in the basket is undoing these bundles. And I see these little baby eyes staring up at me. And I'm like, holy crap. And then she undoes the second bundle, and there's another baby, and then another and another. And soon there's 4 little sets of baby eyes staring up at me. And I'm just like, I get chills thinking about it now, because, it's such a profound moment, recognizing like what you're doing, because you're so numb to it. You're compartmentalizing the mission and the emotional aspect of it. But then in that moment, I'm seeing these 4 little babies looking up at me, and I'm like, wow, like, we're out here doing the Lord's work, man. Like, we're like saving these people from potentially dying. Like, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And it was a moment that I will never forget, looking into those babies' eyes and just remembering like the mission and the danger of what was happening around us.
Yeah. How were you able to hold it together? I just would look away. And not because it's because I don't, no, don't cry. Look away now. I'm not, because I got to stay you got to stay focused, and there's time for crying. I always thought there'll be time for crying. There'll be time for high fives down when I'm done. All right. But right now, there are times where you see something like, oh my, that's getting to me. All right, walk away. And some people see that as insensitivity. That was just the way for me to maintain my composure. Is that what you did? Just looked away and found a job to do, found something to do to keep your mind off it, or did you break down?
That's exactly what I did. Is I looked away. There was actually, I want to say, a little boy about 7 years old or so, and I gave him my flight mechanic's seat, and he was sitting there by himself, and I'll never forget, his little legs were just trembling because he was so cold. And so I took my attention off the babies and all that was happening, and the feeding tube with the baby in the back, and I got the survival blanket out and I wrapped it on his legs, and I was like, I gave you the best seat in the house. In that moment, it was just like a way for me to like make this little boy's day, because he had just left a horrific situation and now he's flying in a helicopter, and I tried to make light of the situation. And I just couldn't look at those little babies, especially since like we thought one was not alive at first, and that's a whole nother story. But I gave my rescue swimmer that kind of task to handle, and I put my focus on trying to make this little boy's helicopter ride the best ride of his life.
That's so cool.
The joking. I tell people this, laughter, movies and the bravado. That's why I do love our movie. They got the jokes that actually happen under duress. All that jackassery, all the comments, all the sayings from bad movies, where there's Team America or Tropic Thunder. Those things happen, and you're like, hey, I got the best seat in the house. laughter is what gets you through that stressful moments. And that's where a lot of movies that get out there, the bravado's there, but they miss all that funny jackassery that goes on. And you just proved it again. Like, what did you do under all that stress? I made a fucking joke. Exactly. That's exactly what happened. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
no, and that's cool. I mean, because you've said this before on the show, and I do think, it's reflected when we have stories like this. What I was going to say is, you said earlier in the interview, and you say it in the book too. I mean, you don't do it for the accolades or the awards. That's not why you do this. But I have to wonder, what was it like when you got the call? We're going to have you as the guest at the State of the Union address. You're going to be sitting next to the First Lady, Melania Trump. I mean, what was the phone call like? I mean, was it a shock to you? And what was it like, being in, because I've been in the room. I mean, it's like a small room. It's not as big as it looks on TV, and being the center of attention for this like monumental event.
I don't even know where to begin because it was wild. Like, I still feel like it was a dream. And, on the hangar deck, we joke all the time. Like, that's a part of, like you said, is decompression and being able to lighten the mood, because we do some heavy missions and some heavy stuff. But when I got the call, I had my phone on silent, and I was doing heavy maintenance on the aircraft, and I had my phone on silent, but it was on vibrate, and it kept vibrating. So I would look at it and it would be like a blocked call. So I would send it to voicemail and be like, man, who's calling me? They know it's a work day. And then I would put the phone back in my pocket. And then again, they would call, block number. I'm like, psh. So like after the third or fourth time, I don't remember, I finally answered, and I was like, hello? Like, I was so rude because I thought it was like a telemarketer, and it was like this sweet lady, and she was like, hey, this is so-and-so calling from the White House on behalf of President Trump and the First Lady. And I was like, I instantly looked around the hangar deck. I'm like, who's playing a joke on me in here? Like, that never happens. But like, it was legit, bro. And I was like, cool. So I obviously got the invitation, had no clue, like zero idea, like the extent of what it was. I thought like, oh, cool, I'll sit in the back row, peanut gallery, like maybe I'll get a picture with like a senator or something cool. But like sitting in that front row, that's when I realized, I was like, I looked over to Karen Pence, the vice president, the second lady at the time. And I was like, I'm getting a little nervous. Like, is he going to talk about me in his speech? Like, what do I do? And thank God I asked that question, because she's like, the proper protocol is that you stay seated for the standing ovation. Like, everybody's supposed to stand and clap at you. Like, thank God, because I would have just stood up and been like, oh, like, what do I do? So like, and I didn't realize that I was going to be spoken about, let alone in the first 5 minutes. And on top of that, have 2 standing ovations.
Ashlee was aboard one of the first helicopters on the scene in Houston during the Hurricane Harvey. Through 18 hours of wind and rain, Ashlee braved live power lines and deep water to help save more than 40 lives. Ashlee, we all thank you. Thank you very much.
Like, it's so mind-blowing. And the entire time I just kept saying to myself, like, thank you, God, because I knew that I was going to utilize that blessing as a platform to share my story and pique the interest of people so I could talk about my faith and my journey.
Did they take care of you? Did they put you up somewhere nice? If they did, those cheap bastards, let's talk about that. Let's get on them right now. They better put you up at least, not even the Ritz in Pentagon City, guys. That place way overrated. Terrible. Even though you're way too much money. Where'd they put you up at, and did they take care of you? And they fly you first class out there too? Be honest. Those cheap bastards.
I'm gonna need you to pull some strings and make some phone calls. I need a redo because I don't feel like I got the treatment.
Neither of us are politically connected, especially not with the current administration.
Oh yeah, but I politicians
we have no
in that regard which side it's on anymore. They both hate me, which is fine. That's how I enjoyed that. But yeah, let's call them out.
So where did they have you?
Yeah,
honestly, I don't remember. It was I think it was downtown somewhere. Dang, you put me on the spot. I'm gonna have to look it up. It was all a dream to me.
It wasn't that nice. Then those fucking cheap bastards. Paul,
Yeah.
They got money up there. Why they could at least put you up at the Hilton or something down in downtown DC. That's actually a nice place.
It's cool though that
cool,
you got to be a part of it regardless, for sure. You know what? One thing I also wanted to make sure that we hit on. You mentioned this earlier that you have an autoimmune disease, yet you were still able to serve and all that.
I have Crohn's disease, so that's why I definitely want to hit up on that.
But what I wanted to ask though is like, I get the feeling from this book that you loved serving, that this is something you were born to do, that you would have loved to have continued, and you had to medically retire. I mean, what was that like?
I bleed red, white, and blue. Like, I love this country so much, dude. It was absolutely devastating. And I was at the peak of my career, obviously Hurricane Harvey. I was a flight mechanic instructor. So I was now training people to go out and do these rad missions. So like, it broke my heart. It really did. But, the beautiful thing about God is that he always redirects your path to something greater. And I feel like my time had ended. I feel like Hurricane Harvey was like, okay, we're going out with a bang, which was pretty cool. That's how my career ended. But, I was heartbroken for a while, particularly because that was my family. My father had passed away and my mom was in Pennsylvania with my sister. So like the Coast Guard was my family. And I would think I was more upset about departing from that lifestyle and that comfortability, if you will. But again, like it sucked, but I was more concerned with my health and focusing on, diagnosing of my autoimmune disease, healing from the trauma that I had for so long. Kind of, you're supposed to compartmentalize, but then you're supposed to decompress at some point, because if you don't, then, you're just setting yourself up for failure. So I learned a lot through that process. But it's been a ride, man. It's been a ride, and I'm grateful to be where I'm at.
I got to ask a follow-up to that real quick.
Ahead,
that's all right. Because
no, go ahead, buddy.
No. But what you're saying reminded me of something when you said like you went out with a bang, Hurricane Harvey, like great way to end it. It reminds me of so I read Buzz Aldrin. He's had several books, but I read Magnificent Desolation, which was specifically about like after the moon landing. And he got involved in alcohol and he got very depressed. There were like weeks on end the guy didn't want to leave his bed. And like the main point of that story was like, after you walked on the moon, what the hell else am I going to do that is ever going to top that? And they had he was like, if you read this book, it's crazy. They had Buzz Aldrin like signing autographs at like a vacuum store and stuff like that, like stuff that's kind of demeaning because this was before public speaking was a thing. And when he came out as an alcoholic, people were saying like, you're never gonna get booked for anything again. Like this was before it was okay to talk about your mental health and addictions. Like you had to be the strong alpha male, like representative of the US. You went to the moon, and he got extremely depressed after that. So I just wonder for you, after like, I rescued newborns in a hurricane, I was at the State of the Union, it's probably like a humbling thing, like in the negative sense, to come down from that and say, all right, like you may feel like I'm never going to do anything this badass again in my life.
Without a doubt. You nailed it. That's kind of exactly how I felt. And on top of it, it's funny because Chris, you can understand the military camaraderie, like on the hangar deck. These are all my brothers, right? So like they'd be like, oh, go save a bunch of lives, go to the presidential State of the Union. It's done.
I'd have given you a rash of shit.
They did. I mean, and it was awesome. I mean, I can take it. I razz them right back, but truth be told, like underlying of all the joking, like it definitely hurt, because I was like, man, like you guys don't get it. Like I want to be on the hangar deck turning wrenches. I want to be out doing these late night missions with you, but like. So to full circle with my autoimmune, what I had been feeling for a couple of years now at that point was there was like a weird disconnect neurologically with me. Like I was pretty fit, I was healthy, I was going to the CrossFit gym, I was working out, and there was a couple times where I'd be doing push-ups and like I would just fall on my face, and I would be like, dude, that's so weird. Like what, like my body would just shut down, or like I would be at the end of the day, I would be like trying to chew my food and like my facial muscles like weren't working. It was just so random and weird. So finally, like after the hurricane, when I felt my body really shut down from all the stress, lack of sleep, I mean, that's when my symptoms really exploded. I got scared at that point, because up until that point during Hurricane Harvey, I never thought that what I was dealing with and trying to self-diagnose was going to affect anybody else. But during Hurricane Harvey, when I felt my body like slowly shutting down, I was scared. I was like, man, I'm supposed to be able to pull these 250-pound men into this cabin. And if I physically can't do it, like that scares me. So I knew it was time for me to focus on my health, and the autoimmune diagnosis was called myasthenia gravis. I think I'm saying that correctly, but it's a rare autoimmune, and basically it affects the way my nerves and my muscles communicate. Being that I was in aviation, they're very strict with what medication you can take and all that, as you know. So I got grounded and went through the whole med board, and which was hard, because then I became like a training petty officer, and I was just sitting at the computer doing all the admin stuff while my homies were doing cool rescues, and I was like, oh. But it's all good. Like I said, God has opened this path for me, and I'm grateful that I can still have an opportunity to talk about my amazing Coast Guard career with people like you guys.
And I get it. It's tough when you can't end on your own terms. And I've had buddies that Rob Jabber, guest we had it on, who still struggles a bit when he biggest car bomb in Iraq, and he survived it at ground zero, but of course he can't work anymore, and it still bothers him a little bit that he couldn't retire on his own terms. Of course, he was medical. He can't deploy him. And that's hard to do. And me, even myself, I was med boarded out as well, and thought the end of the world. And then all of a sudden contracting opened up, and I was able to go, and God always opens a door. You just have to look for it. And that's definitely what he's doing for you, is the door's there. Now you made the choice to step through it, which is good. A lot of, and just so you know, Ashlee, guys is a gender neutral term on our show. When I say guys, I mean men and women. That's how I say it. So when guys can't step through that door, that's when they have issues, and they can't let go. And like, I know I'm staying here. I'm going to get better. I'm going back out. I'm going to do that damn rescue mission. I'm going back out to Iraq. It's like, no, it's time. Go through the door. There's wonderful stuff on that other side. And from what I've seen and what you're doing, it sounds like you have, but making that conscious effort to step through that door to continue on that next path. And was that hard for you to do, to finally, you actually have done it. We've talked about it, and we got a couple minutes left here. I wanted to ask was that hard to step through that door? And because you do have to let go of we have that saying I'm 2,000 miles from being cool again. I'm done. Did you have that? Like, okay, I'm done. I did it. I know I can do it again. If I need to break a case of glass, I got to let go of being, that's what I thought cool was, when it's not what cool is. Cool is what you make of it. But was it hard for you to let that go? Obvious it was. How did you do it? I know it was hard. How did you do it?
It was hard, but there was a moment. Well, first of all, I'll say this. Healing from my trauma and facing that I'd never dealt with probably was harder to me than anything I've ever gone through in my life. So I'll just say that. But I think as military members and first responders, we're very quick to align our identity with our job. The game-changing moment for me was when I recognized that my identity was in Jesus Christ, and it wasn't in who I was or what I've done or any rescue that I've done. There is such a freedom in that has given me the ability not only to heal, but to help others find their own identity and heal from their own traumas, and not even military members, but civilians alike. It's a game-changing moment for me, Chris.
You let the narcissism, we all are narcissistic when we go, I talk about me, I did that. We have that narcissism in there, but when we're able to let all that narcissism go, and we all have it. I'm not saying it's a bad thing to be a little bit narcissistic, have a little bit of that ego. That's how we get through shit. But when you have the ability to let it go, like, okay, that's not my identity. I'm letting my bitty narcissism go so I can help others. That's tremendous. Honestly, I couldn't say it better than you just did. And you said it in 3 words. I said it like in 20 because I'm not a smart man.
But also,
yeah. Go ahead. No, go ahead. Go.
Sorry. I'm a chatter, here I go. But
no, that's what you gotta be, right?
But like in closing statement, I think for me anyway, the fact that I can still serve my country, like I can't physically go out in a helicopter and save people, but like the people that I encounter and the lives that I can touch and help them emotionally, spiritually, I feel like I'm still out there on a mission, truthfully. And that's what gives me the ability to find purpose in life still. And it's pretty awesome, man. Right. Just to know that my life story has helped one human being, dude, that's a win-win.
No, that's awesome. I mean, and you
keep doing it. Just keep doing it.
You seem well adjusted after all of this, and you're doing great things. Are you still in Michigan, or is that where you are now?
I'm living in Florida, the greatest
Oh,
state in
nice,
the union,
nice.
in my opinion. I'm right here on the Emerald Coast. It's so beautiful and sunny and beaches all day.
Yeah. As Chris knows, I mean, and the audience kind of knows, I've thought about moving there many times, and maybe I will at some point. But there are still things I love about New York. I do love Florida, though. You know what? The last thing I got to ask, as long as this isn't too personal, because this has to kind of suck for you. I don't know the circumstances, but it's like you put all this work into this book. You do State of the Union. Everybody knows the name Ashlee Leppert. That's your Instagram handle. The name changed, divorce, marriage. Like what happened?
Marriage. Yeah.
Oh,
Hey,
cool.
listen, I waited 36 years to find my man, and I'm telling you, it's worth the wait. So yeah.
Did you want to be like, hey, I'm devoted to you, but I've built a career off this name? Because personally, I would want to keep my name,
like that
at least
you didn't
publicly
do the
at that
damn
point.
hyphen. That's a strong woman, right? Not the ones that did the hyphen. Oh, I hate a hyphen. What?
Yeah, but if you put
was
out books
awesome.
and all of a sudden you have to be Chris something else, that kind of has to suck, because you spent a lot of time building a career.
Fuck, dude.
Hey, but listen, I'm a traditional woman, even though I'm badass and I've done crazy stuff. I embrace the fact that I'm a woman and that I can take my husband's name. But he does know that I still have my name out there as Ashlee Leppert, like for Instagram and different things. So he's cool with it. He's pretty chill.
Nice.
Good. That's good. Well, it's good to have you. And the only reason, like I said, we could keep my wife, who runs the damn house, she has volleyball practice and camp. They're already starting with my daughter, and nobody's home to watch my 8-year-old. So I got to get home to watch my boy. So, but like I said, I told you didn't I tell you? He didn't think you'd be good. No, I'm fucking with you. He definitely.
No. It is funny though. I'll tell you why I laughed about it. There have been various interviews over the years where the interview hasn't even started, and Chris goes, "We'll have you back on."
And they were kind of.
But no, at some point. But the truth is, I mean, there's so many people to get on. So I don't know if it'll be a year from now or 2 years from now. And hopefully, if you write another book, I mean, that would be awesome. But once again, I mean, the website for people is still, once again, AshleeLeppert.com. At Ashlee_Leppert_inspires on Instagram. And I will say, I now know, because you mentioned it, I butchered your current last name at the top of the show, and I'm not going to re-record it, but Ashlee Olbricht, right? I'm saying it properly now. So when you hear top of show, no disrespect to your husband, I got his last name wrong. But this was a great discussion. And look, truthfully, over the years doing this show, it just because of how things are, and that we're very like special operations focused, it is like 90% guys that we have on. And I do think a lot of the times people forget that there are women who do really badass stuff. And like this book is indicative of that. And people need to hear it. I mean, because there probably are young females out there who don't know that there's a path to do what you did.
And pan over and do that again, because we didn't see that. Here, hold on, let's get you.
You have to say something.
Say something.
All right, you guys. Woo, woo, woo. Oh, and okay, you can say all the nice stuff while we're recording, but I want a full debrief when we get done on where I screwed up so I can do better next time. All right?
Yeah, all right. Yeah, maybe 100 push-ups. There's like 10 fuck-ups. It's okay. Just 10.
The only screw up I know of is before the interview started, Chris being like, we'll have you back on.
Hey, I always put, I don't have to worry about it. Ian's the one that schedules. So I can say whatever, because really, I'm guilt-free to say that, because if we don't have you back on, you can blame Ian. Say it's not my fault. That's why he's like, you son of a bitch.
You know what, though?
I can't believe you said that.
I'll say this. You need to have someone in studio there at some point. There's actually never been like a Ian Scotto free episode. And I'm down to not come on if he has someone in studio at some point. So.
When anybody wants to come to my podang, nobody's coming where I'm 150 miles from an interstate. You know where I am. There ain't nobody coming here.
People would come out. I think if you invited someone to come, like Ashlee's already saying, Ashlee, will you fly to some remote town in Kansas to be on the podcast in studio?
Bro, I'm in. You have the right whiskey and the right topic to talk about.
She called you out.
I got 3 Rangers whiskey. I got Tanto vodka. We're covered.
Woo!
And then very last thing, I know Chris has to go. We're going to do a guest-free episode. This is your last chance to send in any questions for us. So battlelinepodcast@gmail.com. Leave a review on Apple Podcast, leave a comment if you're on YouTube, and all that other good stuff. And thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thanks, Ashlee. And I'm sorry, I got to get home to my boy, but awesome. Keep doing awesome stuff. And hey, if you hit, I don't ever answer my DMs on, so don't think I'm ignoring you on IG. If there's somewhere, hit up Ian, and then he'll get the whatever you need. I mean, if you got a question or comment or something's going on that I haven't answered, just hit him up there, because I don't look at them anymore. They're too time consuming, and it takes away from my family. So I apologize.
All good. I totally get that. Roger that, boss. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, Ashlee. Talk to you later. Tell your husband hi for me, and yeah, kick him in his nuts since you wear the pants in that family. All right.
He knows. He knows.
That's all for this episode of Battleline Podcast. But we're always posting new content on social media. Follow us on Instagram at Battleline Podcast and on Twitter at Battleline Pod. That's an order. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any new episodes up every Tuesday. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or your podcast platform of choice. Believe in yourself. Face all challenges head on. And as always, never quit.